Above the fly.
Above the fly. Alright, see how it drifts down? Alright, I'm going to follow it. Alright, so I'm going to stop the rod, I'm going to reach, and now I have a drag-free drift. I'm going to follow it, follow it, follow it, follow it. That's that. Alright, the wiggle cast. Everybody learn the wiggle cast, serpentine cast. Basically what we're going to do is I'm going to stop the rod, I'm going to wiggle it, get these wiggles in line, let's try that again, and now I got a drag-free drift until it starts to drag. Okay? Now with caddis flies, we're going to use this to our advantage. So it's dragging down there. All I'm going to do is pick my rod up a little bit, and I'm going to skitter it on the water. See how it bounces? Anybody ever seen a caddis fly in the water? Exactly what it looks like. They're just bouncing along, then they stop. And usually when you stop and let it drift like that, because they're so opportunistic, that's when you'll get fish to come up and hit. Okay? So it's bouncing, they're watching the whole thing. They may be even following it as it's going up, waiting to see what's going to happen. So it's a great cast and a great way to fish, you know, with caddis flies. All right, now the steeple cast or the parachute cast. You guys learn that one? Okay. So basically, I'm going to stop the rod high. I can even stop it high and bring it back towards me, and then I'm just going to lower my rod and let the line go down, and now I have a drag-free drift. Again, once it starts dragging, if I'm fishing caddis flies, I can let it bounce like that. Now this is also a cast that you can use and just kind of fish all over the river and just lower your rod and get the drag-free drift. Or, if I don't want to do a lot of casting, I can just drag it across the water, pull it over here, and then let it go like that. Now during hex time, if you're fishing after dark, a lot of times you can use this cast. There's a fish over there feeding. I'll just drag my fly up like that and put it over there. Or if I have a fish, I mean I've had fish actually feeding right here next to me, I'll bring it up here and you know, try to get it as close as I can to me to catch a fish. So don't think that you have to do all this, you know, false casting all the time. In fact, it drives me crazy when I'm with people and they're spending all day long casting, right? Yeah, like this, okay. That's not where I want it. That's not where I want it. That's not where I want it. How do you know that's not where you want it? I mean, you may have had a fish feed there, but he could move, or there could be another one. Could be a better fish, could be a bigger fish. So, how many fish am I going to catch when my fly's up here? None. Get your fly on the water and let it drift. Now, if it's not where I wanted it, what I don't want to do is cast over there and then drag it over across the top of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast, and I'm just going to let this one go, and then I'm going to let it get past the fish, and then let it come over here in the center of the river, and then I'll pick it up and say, okay, that's where I want it. Alright? The other thing is if you cast too far in, there's nothing that says you can't just pull it back over here and get it into this fishing lane over here. Alright? You don't have to do this all day long. That's not it. That's not it. Because you're going to wear yourself out and you're probably going to lose a lot of flies. So get your fly in the water and get to fishing.
Jim, could you talk about mending line, please?
Yep, I'll get that in just a second. In fact, I'll do it right now. Anyways, so one of the things too that we can do is we get the fly on the water and I do a little reach cast. Okay, so I got what, about 10 feet of drift or drag-free drift there. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to maybe extend it a little bit. So I put it down here, I reach. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the surface tension on the line to pull this line out, and I'm gonna flip the end of my rod and feed it out of my hand. Okay? So I'm gonna cast, get the line on the water, I'm gonna mend, and I'm feeding with my left hand as I'm mending it out the end of the rod. Now I've actually extended my cast 30 or 40 or 50 feet. I mean, I can mend all the way down to that tree if I wanted to. The problem with it is if you mend way down there, when you go to set the hook, if you've got 30 or 40, 50 feet of line out there, you got to pull that much back to set the hook. Okay? So if they come up and they just annihilate it or nail it, then that's good. I mean, they're hooked. But if not, a lot of times, or if you get slack in it because you sent it down there so far, you may miss fish. But there's always a chance that you can do that. You still catch fish. All right. So that's mending. Okay, so now I've got the fly in the water. The fish comes up, he eats it. If it's a small fish, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strip my line in like this and play the fish like this. If it's a big fish, and that's why when we hook a fish, we want to get this under our finger. And we don't want to hold this tight. We want the big fish to be able to, pull this line out. So I'm going to get this under my finger, and then I'm going to start reeling. Okay? And get that fish on the reel, and then use the, you don't have to, you don't want to put too much pressure on this finger. Just let it run through your fingers, and use the tension of the rod, pulling back on the rod to, play the fish and tire them out. Now, when we're playing a fish, you hear people talk about, well, just lift your rod tip up, right? And that's good in a boat on a lake. I mean, that's a good thing to say. But we're in a river. And that's good if the fish is going away from me, either downstream or upstream. There's nothing wrong with picking your rod tip up and going. But what I want to tell you with fighting big fish, go the opposite direction they're going. Okay? You want to tire them out. So if I got a fish that's going over towards that bank, I'm going to lower my rod down here and I'm going to go towards that bank. If the fish is going towards that bank, I'm going to bring my rod around and fight it this way. Okay? So don't get that mentality where I can only pull it up like this. Because a lot of times what will happen is if it's going that way and then it goes that way, there's going to be slack in the line, and as soon as it gets to the end of it, it's going to snap up. Alright? When you have fish that come up out of the water, steelhead are notorious for it. You get out west, you get some big rainbows that come up and they'll flop out of the water. Salt water, you get fish that'll come up out of the water. There's, the expression bother the fish. So if you see a fish come up out of the water, just lower your rod tip. And what that does is it keeps your line, fairly taut and doesn't get the slack in the line. So you want to bother the fish when they're doing that. So I've got the fish on, I fought it, I'm bringing it up to me. It's a small fish, and I've pinched my barb down. So all we have to do with the small fish is we want to keep them in the water. The less we handle them, the better. So we're going to take and, if you've got your barb pinched down, you can just reach down there, grab the fly itself, especially if it's like in the corner of the mouth, and just reach down there and pop it out. It'll just come right out. If they inhale it, you may have to pick it up and then use your hemostats or something to pull it out. But make sure you wet your hand before you touch that fish. They have a protective coating on them. And if you grab a hold of them with a dry hand, you'll take that protective coating on them, and it makes them susceptible to different diseases and viruses. So you want to wet your hand. If you have a net and you're going to net one, make sure you wet your net before you put that fish in. And then try to get them revived and get them going as fast as you can. Now I know all of you guys, everybody likes to do the grip and grin photos, and you want to, show all your buddies your big fish. If you do that, get everything set up, keep the fish in the water. Whoever's taking the picture, make sure they're ready. Leave them in the water, pick them up out of the water, take the picture, and then get them back in the water. Okay? The faster you can, and the more you can keep them in the water, the better. Okay? Questions?
What about the term lining the fish?
The what?
Lining the fish.
Lining
In other words,
the fish?
taking your fly line over the fish.
Okay, yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that you don't want to do is line the fish. And that's a lot of times when we line a fish, it's because we put the fly line over the top of them. And that's the difference between us and the people that fish upstream. When you're fishing upstream, and the lining can be a problem, because when you're fishing upstream, the fish are looking upstream, and you're just trying to get your fly and your leader over the top of them. Now, if you cast too far, you get your line over the top of them, and it could spook them. In Michigan, when we're fishing downstream, we can line fish, but a lot of times, because we have the fly coming before the line, you're less likely to line the fish. Now, if you line a fish, it's one of those cases where if it's a nice enough fish and it's been feeding pretty regularly and you line it, then that's the perfect opportunity for you to just sit down, take a break, and rest the fish until it starts feeding again, and then cast it. All right. Any other questions?
Refusals.
Refusals, okay. George brings this up.